Go ahead, Mark.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the June meeting. And today's program is really interesting. It is called Parks on the Air, POTA. So a lot of you have heard about it. Now you're going to get to learn about it. And we have a wonderful expert on it today, Mr. Jonathan. So without further ado, I'm going to throw it over to Jonathan and let him give you a whole rundown of Parks on the Air.
Now we're live. There you go. I'm holding up the whole group. Okay. There you go.
Hello. Give me 1 second. You hear a lot of rustling. It is the beard. I apologize. Good morning. My name is Jonathan, W5JWZ, Juliet Whiskey 5 Juliet Whiskey Zulu. And yes, I do know my alphabet. Being in front of a large group of people today is awesome, but I may do a little bit of slip up on my speech, so just bear with me there, okay? Show of hands, who has heard of Parks on the Air? Oh, good, excellent. I would hope so, being that you just see that up there. Who's participated in Parks on the Air? As a hunter? What about as an activator? No activators, okay. Well, today we're gonna have some fun because we're gonna do some activation, and we're gonna go over some activation, and later today we'll try our hands on an activation. Parks on the Air. Next slide, please. What is Parks on the Air? First couple things to know is the terms to know. An activator is the one who takes their equipment into a approved entity to activate a park. So you'll hear me say an activator, an activation, stuff like that. You're the ones that are going to be taking your gear into the park, your battery, your transceiver, your antenna, everything that you need out in that entity and operating from that park instead of your QTH. Hunters or chasers are ones who searches for and answers the CQs from the activators. Now, the cool thing about being a hunter. Hello. The cool thing about, I don't know if y'all can hear me, but the cool thing about being a hunter or chaser is you can be at your QTH. You can be in your ham shack. You can be in the comforts of the AC where the insects don't get you, where the sun don't get you. That's perfectly fine. Or you could be in a mobile. You can be at another park, be a Park on the Air entity, or at a regular city park. You'll just be a hunter, or not a hunter from that park. One of the cool things is I actually had an aviator contact me when I was operating down in Arkansas. I thought that was real neat, especially being it was my first activation. So a lot of new firsts for me there. And then the entities and reference points are pre-approved POTA sites. These are the ones that are part of the program that you'll get, you'll go and get activate into or hunt, depending on what you're doing. Next slide, please. So Parks on the Air, I'm going to keep it real simple. Back in 2016, ARRL brought out National Parks on the Air. It was a 1-year-long event that encourages people to get into the outside. They wanted you to get out of the ham shack, go out into a park and explore the great wilderness with your radio equipment. It was a big hit. It lasted a year. They stopped the program, and then a couple of operators came together and created. They saw that this was such a popular idea that they wanted to go ahead and make a program to the program that we have today, which is Parks on the Air. It is a 501c3, which is a nonprofit organization. So everything is ran by volunteers. It's 100% volunteer operated. Everyone from the people who create the sites, the people who go out and explore. Park is an option for the program to help determine if there's going to be an issue at a certain entity. And even the help desk are all volunteers. And so you'll hear me talk about the area coordinators, and we'll get into that, but they're all volunteers as well. So just, it's a good program, and they're also actively looking for more volunteers to help run it. I don't have that information, but you can go to the help help@parksattheair.com, and they can get you more information there. Currently, it has exploded. Over 111 DX entities. This started as a small program inside the US, and it has just expanded. There are over 10,000 entities here in North America alone, Canada, America, and Mexico. And so it has really gone worldwide, and it has blown up. Next. All right. So how do you get started? How do you get started in Parks in the Air? Well, you go into parksattheair.com, and you'll go to a Get Started tab on the top, and we'll show you that a little bit later. You can review the information beforehand, or you can review the information while you're signing up, but there is a hunter and activators guide, and it's part of a PDF for both hunters and activators. It'll go over what you can do, what you can't do, the rules, but mainly it's just to have fun. You'll want to go ahead and follow and read the rules, and follow the rules of code of conduct, and then review the commonly asked questions. And there's a large page of commonly asked questions that they've got on there. Now, if you search everything and you still have a question, you can go ahead and get onto the Facebook group and ask them, or contact the help@parksontheair.com website. And then after you sign up, you'll go ahead and you'll get on the air. Next slide, please. So this is what I was talking about. This is the parksontheair.com website. And what you'll do is you go to the help getting started, and you'll go for sign up for POTO. Next slide, please. It'll bring you to a page that looks like this. There's a couple different options for you to sign in. You can sign in using your Amazon, your Google, or Facebook if you have Facebook. And if you don't want to use either of those, you can sign up using an email and password. And like every other password and everything that we have to do, it's got to be lowercase, uppercase, special characters, numbers, at least 8 characters. You know, it seems like the list goes on and on and on and on. So much to the point where I forget my own passwords if I don't have them written down. Next slide, please. So once you do that, there's all that information that we've talked about, the commonly asked questions, the activators guides, the rules for Parks on the Air, the DX code of conduct on there, and you'll want to go ahead and review those and make sure that you understand them. And then you'll sign up. Once you get to this part of it, you'll go ahead and put in your current call sign, and then your full name. Obviously, we use SCARS, or South Canadian Amateur Radio Society, here for ours to sign up. You'll hit submit. You'll wait for approval, and so they'll send you a confirmation email to your email address that you provided, or to I think it's the email address that you provided. If you do not get that confirmation email or have a problem with that, go ahead and look in your junk file. It was brought to my attention this morning that it may be inadvertently sent to the junk file. So go ahead and look at your junk or spam file. And once you confirm on that email, and then you'll be ready to go. Next slide, please. And so get on the air. But that's how simple it is to get on there. Just make sure that you understand the rules before activating, and we'll go over the rules, and make sure you understand there's not a lot of rules on hunting. Just answer the call. It's pretty much what it is, and doing the code of conduct, and not stepping on anyone. And we'll go over some of that a little bit later. Next slide, please. All right. So how do we prepare for an activation? It's simple. You have to find a park in which you want to activate. And there is a lot of parks to activate in the state and around the US. Most people will do a park that is closer to their home, because let's be honest, if I have to drive 15 minutes away, I forget a piece of equipment that's very vital to my setup, i.e. a power cord. I can drive 15 minutes back, get my stuff, and go back out and activate. Or you can do like me, and you can travel across the state border, go to Arkansas, and do your first activation. Granted, when I first started, I had no idea what I'm doing. I read the rules and I did everything, so I knew how to do it. I just didn't understand my gear at that time. That was relatively new to me. And so it was kind of a crash course, but it was a successful crash course. It's like landing on your wheels in water. So find your entity. And a couple things with the entity is you want to make sure that it's open. That's a big thing. It's got to be open. It's public land. It's got to be open. If it's got an hour or hours of operation, go ahead and activate during those hours of operation. One of the worst things to do is to travel a long distance, get to where you want to go just to find out that the park is closed. Right now, there's a whole list of state parks in New Mexico that are currently closed due to the severe drought and fire danger. So if you're planning to go out to New Mexico to activate a park, well, that is a long ways to travel to be disappointed. So set yourself up for success on that. Make sure you understand the boundaries. The big thing about it is all of your equipment has to be within the boundaries. The antenna, the transceiver, the power source, everything that you have to operate in the park has to be within the boundaries of that park. And we'll go over how to determine what those boundaries are a little bit later. You'll want to review the weather, atmospheric and space weather. If the Space Weather Prediction Center says, hey, you know, we're going to be in a geomagnetic storm 2, it may not be advisable to go out there. But if you're gung-ho and you still want to press through, go for it. There's nothing saying that you can't do it. Same thing with our weather down here. If it's going to be windy, you may want to take that into consideration. If it's going to be cold, you may want to take that into consideration. If it's going to be hot and muggy like it is today, I'm not wearing a winter jacket and overalls because I would die. So you just want to make sure that everything you can do at home before going out there to make it more of a successful activation for you, make it more of a positive experience for you out there. A couple of things to help set you up is you can announce your activations on the POTA app website. I'd like to stress there is no actual Parks in the Air app. There are third-party apps, but they're not supported by Parks in the Air. So there's a lot of error codes and stuff that gets sent out, and a lot of questions on Facebook page and the Slack page as far as why is this not working. The moderators are really good at saying, hey, as discussed before, we don't have an actual app you can get at the App Store. So you can go on your phone, on your internet phone, go POTA.app, and it'll bring you up to a page. You can go to the, after you signed up, go to the announcements, not the announcements, the activations, and you can go, hey, I'm going to be at this park at this time, at this day. The only thing you can't do is put in a frequency just because you don't know what frequency is available when you get there or before you get there. And then check and double check all your gear. I'm very guilty of this. At the QTH, everything's already set up and taken care of. I don't have to worry about anything except for maybe something coming loose, and that's on me. When you take all of your equipment out to the field, it's a different story. Like I said, I forgot my power cables. I was down in just coming back up from Plano, Texas, getting some antennas, wanted to try a new antenna out. I had everything else except for my power cable. And of course, I didn't have the supplies to make that power cable. So I just packed up everything and went back home. So you don't, it's frustrating. So make sure that you double check your gear before you leave. A lot of people will do like a mock setup. Well, they'll go in their backyard and they'll check and they'll make sure that everything's good. Their gear is operational. They may even do a little bit of hunting while in the backyard just to make sure that everything's good for field use. They'll put everything back together, put it in the car, and they'll get ready for the next day. Next slide, please. So I'll refer to Lexington Wildlife Management Area, or WMA. And it's every park has a reference number. So Lexington's is going to be Kilo 6357. And it's in the US, and it gives you a lot of the information right here as far as longitude, latitude, where it's located, who runs that site. And that's going to be very important when it comes to the official boundaries, who runs that site, or if you've got any issues with someone coming out and saying, hey, you can't do this, you can always talk to them or go to that site and just make sure that you're in the clear. Make sure the park's operating status is well on that site. It'll also tell you, how you can get in there, whether it's automotive foot, activation methods, a lot of just information. If it's active, if it's inactive, you won't be able to activate that park. Who first activated it, and then it has a bunch of different like activation histories and hunters histories. Everyone who's hunted that, or the top, I want to say it's 5 hunters for that particular entity. Next page, please. So what I have here, and the reason why I said to do the official website or the official entity is who runs that entity, sorry, is because right here we have 3 different maps. We have, I believe this is the Google map up here to your bottom or your top left. You have the Parks on the Air map here on the bottom right, and then you have the official one directly from the Department of Wildlife here in Oklahoma, who runs all the WMAs and state fishing lakes. And the more detailed map is going to be your official map. And there's some levels of discrepancies in the maps that these 2 don't have that one does. As you can tell, there's on the official map, there's that little square. I don't have a pointer and I'm not tall. A little square on at its own there. If you can see it, that is not located in any of the other 2 maps. So just make sure that you've got all your stuff in that boundary. Next slide, please. So adding a spot is pretty simple. You'll open the app, whether it's on your computer, if you have a computer out there, if you have a phone out there. A lot of the times you'll get into a place or an entity that does not have cell service. That is why adding your activation that is why scheduling your activation will be a lot helpful. If someone's actively searching for that park or needs that reference for a worked all references in that state, they may be looking for you, and you'll have a good chance of being found. But once you get out to the entity and set up, what you can do is you can spot yourself as a hunter or as an activator, sorry. Spot yourself as an activator. And what I like to do is I like to go out there, set up, and I'll hunt a few times, do like 2 or 3 contacts, hunting. Murphy's Law. What can go wrong will go wrong. That's all right. I needed a break to drink some water anyways. Exactly. So this is what the spotting page looks like, or this is where you spot yourself. I apologize. And so what you'll do is if you're spotting yourself, you put yourself under the spotting call sign. You'll do the activator call sign as yourself, your park reference number. The comments I usually go, if it's my first spot of the day, what I'll do is I'll say CQ and call it that, or CQ come and get me, something fun, exciting. And then the frequency that I'm going to be at, I'll put spot and automatically boom. And I will tell you, once you get out there and you spot yourself, count it, time it, 30 seconds. 30 seconds, all of a sudden you are going to get blown up. You're going to have a pileup and it's going to be crazy. Now, if you've worked pileups before, they're exciting and they're stressful at the same time. If you haven't worked up pileups, I suggest a paper and a pen and take control of it. And it's stressful, but it's fun. It's exhilarating. I guess that'd be the word to do it. It's exhilarating. But yeah, they'll come for you. They'll come for you. If they can hear you, they'll come for you, and they will come for you all at once. And it's a blast. So like about 30 seconds and they're hitting you pretty good. Next page, please. So what gear do we need? And it's real simple. You need a transceiver, an antenna, and a power supply. There's a lot of benefits versus QRP versus QRO. And the reason I say that is if you are on a QRP, they're typically smaller, lightweight, more compact, easier to put in a backpack. So if you're planning on doing a hike on a national trail, it's a lot easier to carry maybe a pound transceiver versus your 18-pound transceiver. But if you're on a park bench or you've got a table, you may want to bring the big guys out. You don't need to, but it's whatever you have. I have a ICOM 718. That was my first one, and I go back to it very frequently. I love it. I recently got a 891, a FT 891, and I love it too. So I bring them both because I usually don't park too far away from where I'm going to activate. But It's whichever transceiver you have. There's no, you don't have to go out and get a brand new transceiver to make it POTA. It's whatever you want to go out there and do. Antennas, keep your options open. And the reason I say keep your options open, I usually carry 3 with me. I've got the ham sticks, which are great for mobile setup. I just put the tri-mount on top of my car, put the ham stick in, and then go. I usually do those on my robes, and we'll cover robes a little bit later. But what that does is that it's almost instantaneous, like on the air, get my contacts, tear it down, and then go to the next site. Or you may do screwdrivers, coils. The Wolf River coil was my first ever high frequency antenna. I liked it. I love it. It's got a lot of capability. One of the things that we'll cover a little bit later as far as gear goes is the radial zone. And I've got a great story for that involving Lake Thunderbird. I was out there and I did not have my radials marked. And the ground crews came in and he hit one of my radials and only took out one. I'm glad only took out one. I felt more bad for him. More bad. That's good English. I felt worse for him because that wrapped right around the blades. And so he was concerned that I was going to get mad at him. I was concerned that he was going to get mad at me. And he's like, "Hey man, I'll pay you. I'll reimburse you for the damage." Like, it's no biggie. But I learned flags, cones, something high visible that allow people to know, hey, you're here, and I got to be quicker. If I see the lawn crew, they're out there doing their job, I got to scoop all my stuff up and make way for them. So it's kind of a give and take on that. And then I also have a vertical that I put on my spider beam antenna mast. And so I've got 3 options on my antennas. So it's whatever you're comfortable with. You don't have to go out and get a brand new antenna. You can make one. You can use what you got at home if you've got one there. One of the big things to have the options for is if you are out in a say like a state park or a national park, national forest, and they don't like putting things up in the trees. Well, if that's how you're planning to get your antenna in the air and you don't have a backup or a backup way of getting it up in the air, then that is, you've traveled all that distance for nothing. So, and then power supplies, you got the sealed lead acid batteries, and those things, you know, they're good. They're bulky, they're heavy. Again, if you're doing a backpack or a bicycle ride, you don't want to take that big, bulky, heavy thing out there with you. And then I've got also the lithium iron phosphate battery, and that has worked a charm. Lightweight, compact. Mine is 30 amp hours. I have no problems with that operating. So, and there's a whole slew of batteries and power solutions out there. A lot of the situation is you will not always have a commercial power supply out there. So you may not just be able to plug it in and go. So that's why we do the batteries there. And then solar charging, if you're going to be out on site for, a couple days or more than what your battery could last, you may want to go ahead and consider solar charging option, and you'll be good there. Next. So going with antennas and different ways of doing antennas, honestly, it's creative. It's all based on your creativity. For example, Lisa Kilo Charlie 1 Yankee Lima has a kite mounted antenna. This is the first time I've ever seen a kite mounted antenna. I've seen plenty of different ways, and I thought this was really creative enough to bring in. I talked to Lisa on Facebook Messenger, and they're actually going to be conducting a park to park, kite to kite, Connecticut to Florida contact on Monday. So that'll be just an option of things that she can do.
What's the key signal with the kite approach?
That's a great question. I do not know. I just saw it was neat, and I'm pretty sure not good. Next slide, please. Some additional gear that you may want to consider. Oklahoma, we have a tendency to be really hot, really cold, really windy, really wet, really dry, and that's all Monday through Friday. So you may want to look at bug spray. The mosquitoes are the size of Texas. up here. So if you're not wanting to get bit by mosquitoes, go ahead, bring some bug spray. Ticks are also pretty bad. Sunscreen, we're going to be really hot and really sunny today. So sunscreen is a good option. Tie downs, electric tape. And then again, like I said, ways to mark the radials. That's really important to save your radials. And then any other equipment that you want to bring out there, food, water, snacks. Usually when I go out there, I bring a chair and a table, just because some of the sites that I go to don't have a chair or a table. I tried a tent, sunshade one day. It was 25-mile-an-hour winds. I'm pretty sure I spent more time trying to get that up and stayed put than I did activating that day. And it really frustrated me. It got my 10 and we were good to go from there. But there's just, a lot of things that you can bring out there that once you start activating, and you'll be like, oh, I should have thought about this. You can always put it on your checklist, put it on your phone, tablet, write it on paper, make a mental note. It's just like, this would have been nice. This would have been nice. I could have done this differently. It's a lot of trial and error. I'm still trialing and erroring. I've been doing this for about 1.5 years. So it's a ever learning experiment and exercise in patience. Next slide, please. A few rules to remember when activating. Like I said, all equipment must be in the official boundaries of the entity. There was a gentleman who's received or bought a retirement home in a national park or forest, one of those two. His private land, he can't activate on his private land, even though it's within the boundaries of the park. You can't activate from the private land. It has to be on public land. Good thing for him is the difference between private and public is 40 feet. All he has to do is walk 40 feet and then boom, he's good to go. So his antenna, everything has to be within the public property, not the private land. You can't trespass on private, cannot trespass on private property to get to the public land. You always have to have permission to get there or find an alternative route. Trails, they do have national historic trails and other trails of the like. Obviously, we don't want you to go ahead and make camp in the middle of a walking trail, even though it's within the trail boundaries. We don't want you to do that because it interferes with the traffic. So within 100 feet, and then that also includes like the visitor centers, trailheads, parking spaces. As long as it's within that trail boundaries or 100 feet within that trail boundaries, you're good to go. Interesting thing is you cannot use terrestrial repeaters. And the reason I say terrestrial repeaters is because I can go to our repeaters, say, hey, I'm going to do a park on the air activation. I'll be on this frequency. Come find me. Change over frequencies and start activating. But I cannot do it via the terrestrial repeater. However, there is a program that they use satellite repeaters, and that is acceptable. And I think that also gets its award, its own award. I'm pretty sure. It's pretty neat. I don't know a lot about it. I'm not that technical savvy, but it's an option. And like I said, the park must be open. And a lot of your parks that you get out there, they may require you to ask permission to do it or get a special, it's called a special use thing. It all depends on the park. I know that there was a couple of them a couple of activators that had to wait. I want to say it was a couple months to do Alcatraz Island. And that was a huge POTA event that they went out there and they activated Alcatraz Island. Cool QSO cards that they sent out. But they required a permit and then also some money to be exchanged for a pass or whatever it is. So just if you've got a question, go ahead and talk to the park ranger, the visitor center, and see if they've got an issue with you going out there. If there's any rules or regulations that they have, you want to go ahead and make sure that you're within the rules of the park. If that's, yeah. Another thing with that is if and a lot of times, sometimes I see on the Facebook group, people will go out there and the rangers will come through, or the governing entity will come through and they'll say, hey, what are you doing? We're curious. And you just kind of explain them. It's like, you know, this is amateur radio. This is what I do. I'm doing Parks on the Air. There's a brochure you can find on Facebook that you can print out. And it's like a quick information about what Parks in the Air is and what you're doing. Some will be very okay with it. Some will talk to you about the time that their dad or granddad did CB, you know, a couple of years ago. And, you know, you get some good stories. They'll make some good friends. And then there are the occasion where you may get someone who doesn't quite understand the program and they say, hey, you need to tear your site down. You're not welcome here. Don't argue. Remember, you're representing amateur radio and Parks in the Air when you're out there, but go ahead and you can email. I want to say it's the regional coordinator, and they will help you figure out what the problem is. But just don't get combative. That's one of the big things. Don't get combative. Don't get and then shouting match with the authorities. That's a quick way to stop your activation real fast. Next. Activating. So what we're looking for when we're activating is it's called unique contacts, and it's the UTC day, the call of the band, the mode, and the reference number. Remember the entity number, the reference number. So if any of those things have changed, that is a unique contact for you. And those also are the things that you want to go ahead and log, and we'll go with that logging. For an activation, it's 10 unique contacts. There is no formal exchange. This is not a contest, which is a great thing. It's not a contest. So usually how it goes is they'll exchange signal reports, and then the entity of the activator. And then if the hunter is activating from another site, they'll give you that number. And then if they're not, they'll usually give your your signal report and your state. So for example, I'll call CQ and Mark will go ahead and answer. CQ Parks in the Air, CQ Parks in the Air. This is Whiskey 5 Juliet Whiskey Zulu calling CQ Parks in the Air and standing by.
W5JWZ, this is N5HZR.
N5HZR. I copy you 59 from park number kilo 1275, for example.
This is N5HZR in Norman, Oklahoma.
Signal report.
Oh, a signal report.
Yeah.
59 from Oklahoma.
All right, 59. I copy your 59 from Oklahoma. Thanks for the contact, 73. And then you can go QRZ and keep on going. That's the great thing about it. I do not like, I was in the military and our communications were very short and precise, and it's taken me a long time to talk a lot more on the radio, but I like short and concise communications. That's just my preference. I like boom, 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 boom. I like to hit them. Huh?
Because that's what you're used to.
Exactly. Now, if you'll get some hunters that will want to talk to you, and I'll make time for them, and that's great. They'll tell me what they're set up with. I'll tell them what I'm set up with, and then you can go ahead and move on. But that's my preference. There's no wrong or right way for doing it. That's my preference. It's nice, short, simple, sweet communications. I like to get the state. That way, if I'm doing paper logs and I'm transcribing, my handwriting is atrocious. So I like to do the paper logs and then have them give me the state. That way I know that, hey, yeah, this is definitely the guy or gal that I talked to, versus, well, something didn't add up, and then I can investigate later. But we'll go into a little bit of logging a little bit later. Next slide, please. So this was taken a while back. This is the spotting page. And a couple things with the spotting page. These are the active spots. And what they'll do is they'll give you the call sign of the activator and where they're activating from on the top section. So if you're looking for particular parks in particular states, countries, you can look and see who you need or who you want. It'll also give you the name of that park, where it's located. Both of these are Canadian. One's in British Columbia and one's in Quebec. Thank you. And then also their frequencies, who spotted them, and then the spotters, any information they want to pass on. Usually it's a signal report and then the state that they've spotted. And then after that, it'll be last heard. Now, one of the frustrating things before the updates, if you were hunting, this page would constantly refresh every 60 seconds. So if we had 12, which was pretty manageable on a mobile platform. If we had 36 and I'm all the way down to the bottom of the page and I'm trying to zoom into him, and all of a sudden it refreshes. Now I have to go back and do it. Cool thing now with the new update is that you could go up and data will be refreshed in 48 seconds, push the pause button, and I think it's 3 minutes. It'll pause that page for 3 minutes, and then it's a lot easier to do. So if you let's say, and the most recent spots will be up here on the top, and I think it goes down and clears off at about 30 minutes. So if there's someone that's active, 27 minutes ago, you tune to that frequency, you hear them, go ahead and give them a spot, because what that'll do is that'll take them from the bottom of the page to the top of the page and get them a lot more attention. Next page, please. I like taking pictures of my activations and setup. This is at Lexington Wildlife Management Area. I am almost 600 contacts in at this park. It's real simple. It's real easy. There's not a lot of stuff out there. I do have my random wire antenna that Ken Sanborn helped me build. And then I've got my table and my chair. And what you can't see, and the reason I love this park, is what you can't see is on the other side of the car is a makeshift sheet metal bathroom thing. It's a toilet seat on a cement pad. And I tell you, that saved my life a time or two. So I like to scout out, this goes on the planning of the activations. I like to scout out where the bathrooms are. I also like to scout out how far is the closest gas station. So if I get parched out there, I can hurry up, tear stuff down, go get a drink, and then pop back up. But it's nice and easy. I've got my counterpoise attached to it. There's a metal T-post out there, so I'm not on the trees, and it's a beautiful place. There's not a lot of people that go through there. One of the biggest issues that I have is so there's a dirt road where I'm standing on taking the picture, so there's a lot of dust when traffic goes through, but it's not a lot of traffic to really be worried about. Next page. Back when I first started, we did a family vacation down to Arkansas for a weekend trip. I was gung-ho, I was ready to go. Like I said, knew what I was doing, but didn't know what I was doing, if that makes sense. Went to Lake Dardanelle. It was cold, 50 degrees. It was spitting rain. I had my Wolf River coil up, and the bands, I don't know what the bands were doing because I didn't know about the space weather and all that. I just went out there and tried to activate the park. It was cold. It was windy. I managed 11 or 12 before I couldn't feel my fingers anymore. Packed up and went along on our trip. That same trip, I went to did what's called a twofer. It's an entity inside of an entity. And those are really popular on the hunters because it's 2 contacts with 1 person. Remember, the unique contacts is what they're looking for. So if I'm talking to Mark and I'm in a twofer, he'll get credit for 2 parks and I'll get credit for 2 contacts. Or no, 1 contact.
Is there a twofer local?
Not that I know of. Yes, there is. Roman Nose, and there's a fishing lake. I apologize. Up in Roman Nose State Park, there's a fishing lake, and if you get within like 1 parking space, you'll a twofer, and like I said, they'll come after you pretty good for twofers. So yeah, Lake Dardanelle. The cool thing about Lake Dardanelle, I didn't know. I've never seen a nuclear power plant before, but there's a nuclear power plant just off camera. It was kind of cool. Yeah, we saw the nuclear evacuation routes. I had to take a picture of that. And it's like, this is things I've never seen. So, and you'll see a lot of things. You'll see a lot of wildlife. You'll encounter a lot of people. I had a couple of people come up, walk up, and ask me what I was doing. I explained it to them, and they were cool. Give me, their dad did this, and then we had a good conversation, and they went on their way. So, so you'll get people out there that'll curious. You'll get a lot of weird looks. You'll get a lot of weird looks, but it's fine. It's fine. I have fun with it. Next slide, please. And then this is Lake Ellis, Wildlife Management Area. This one, I woke up probably about 4 o'clock in the morning. I traveled out there, and the reason I chose this park is because Oklahoma at the time only had 3 parks that were not activated, that have never been activated, all-time new activations. And I managed to grab myself one. So under the park's history, you'll find the first activated by, and then on the date that it was activated, and I got my name in the history books. Like I said, it's not a contest, but it's just a really good feeling knowing that of everyone who can do this, I managed to get my name on the first activation there. I won. And it's a very beautiful lake. It was cold. It was cold again. But I prefer the cold over the heat any day of the week. I'm a good old South Dakota kid. So, but you'll know a recurring theme. There you go. That's where I parked. That's where I activated. And that's where I went to the bathroom. So, especially after that long trip, there's not a lot of stops along that way. Next slide, please. So right here, what we have is we have this is the Omnipota Parks on the Air website. This is a map. Ta-da. And these yellow dots are all places that you can activate that are approved for the POTA as a POTA entity near the metro. You've got Lexington Wildlife Management Area, Lake Thunderbird. There's in the central of Oklahoma City, there's the National Monument. Trying to blank. Thank you. Sorry about that. And then the the Oklahoma History Center as well. And then Lake Arcadia Conservation Area. Now, the reason I say that Lake Arcadia Conservation Area is because if you look at the map, if you zoom in real close, the conservation area is actually in the southeast or southwestern part of that lake. They've got campgrounds all along the north, which are not in bounds. So you can't get a parking spot, go activate north of the lake and count it as a park on the air activation because it's not within the official boundaries. So that's why it's very important to look at the boundaries before you get out there. I almost made that mistake once, realized that I made the mistake. This was New Year's Day and decided to go to Roman Nose instead because that's what I decided to do. Next slide, please. I like driving. I like traveling. So Parks on the Air is great for me. Post activation. So when you log in unique contacts, remember the things that you want are going to be your time, your date, the call sign of the person that you contacted, your park, if they're in a park, their park, and then I usually do frequency and then frequency, band modes, and signal reports, both sent and received. And I use the N3JFP logging to submit my logs. And I got an example, excuse me. I've got an example of that in a slide coming up. But when I first started, I started out with paper because I didn't want to take a computer out there. What if it gets rainy? What if I drop it?
If you're gonna correct that, the call sign, I think, is N3FJP, if it's the same guy. Yeah.
Oh, I apologize. I typo. N3FJP. I apologize. N3FJP. Thank you. I appreciate that. I started out with the paper logs, and then I would move them over to the digital using that program. However, I realized that after 3 hours of activating, going back home, and then spending another hour and a half moving the logs, I was error prone because I was tired. I'd wait till the next day, and then my brain would shut off, and oh yeah, I got to do this. So I took out I started bringing out a Surface Pro with that program on there. And I started logging electronically as I go. It's completely how you want to do it. If you're more comfortable on paper, and the benefit with paper that I like is I can record if I got a pile up and I've got 3 calls, I've got partials in there, I can write them down real quick and then start picking them off before moving and just doing calling out again. So that's the benefit with paper logs. Both of them are prone to, dust, wind. Well, digital's not wind, but papers, moisture, stuff like that. So the programs is, like I said, the N3FJP, and then the hammers. I haven't really dealt with the hammers as much, but it is an option out there. When submitting your logs for the activator, when submitting your logs, you want to do that in an ADIF file, and you want to submit it into your regional or into your area coordinator. I apologize. And the area coordinator is going to be kilo, and then the number in your call sign. Most of us, it's going to be 5. So kilo 5 at parksontheair.com. You'll submit your log into them. If you have a 0, you'll go kilo 0 all the way to kilo 9. If you travel to somewhere out of your area, so if you travel to 0 land or 9 land, you still submit it to yours, kilo 5 or kilo, whatever your number is. You'll go ahead and list your log as your call sign at the park you activated and the date that you activated it. So mine, I always submit mine W5JWZ at the park I'm at, and then the date I activate it, just like that. The goal is to get 10 unique contacts, but sometimes things happen, storms roll in, solar weather does weird things, you have a family emergency, something happens and you don't get the 10 contacts, go ahead and submit your log anyways. That way, the people who hunted you that day will get credit for that park. It doesn't count against anyone. I think they used to call it a failed activation. They removed failed because, again, we're out there to have fun. So it's an activation attempt. If it doesn't make 10 contacts, still submit your log like you'd normally do. Next slide, please. This is an example of how I have mine set up. It took me a little while to get things set up on this program here. So I like going just like in this order. Now, you don't have to do yours like this. If you choose not to, you can choose to do yours more. You can have more information if you'd like. It's completely how you want to do it. The big things, if you're going to use this program, that you'll need to do is you'll need to name one of your other entities or other options as SIG info, and then the other one as my SIG info. Your SIG info is going to be the park that you're activating. So my SIG info would be kilo 6357. And then if I contact someone who's at a different park, they give me their park information. I will put their information in the SIG info, and then we'll call it a day. Sometimes they do a twofer. You'll stumble across a twofer. And so what I'll do is just repeat all the process, with the only thing changing is the SIG info for the second park or the second entity. Next slide, please. So hunting, we covered a lot about activation. So let's go about hunting. Hunting is very important to the program because without the hunters, we wouldn't have anyone to activate to. Basic equipment you need is pretty much your transceiver, your antenna, and your power source. Again, it's whatever you have in your ham shack. Like I said, you can be at your house, you can be at your QTH, you can be in a car, you can be in a park, a boat. Like I said, the plane. The gentleman was traveling from Texas to, I want to say it was New York, and had some downtime, reached out and got me. Pretty neat. I think he was say about 2,200 feet off the ground at that time. But it was real neat. And then a big thing with hunters is that they don't submit logs to Parks on the Air. You'll want to probably keep logs because you've still made radio contact, but you won't submit them to Parks on the Air. As a hunter and activator, I submit mine. Or as a hunter, I'll do QRZ, EQSL, and whatever other logging program that you like out there. Logbook of the World is a big one. But they will not submit logs to the POTA site. Next, please. Like I said, it's not a contest, but if you like getting rewards, getting paper rewards, certificates, they do offer hunter and activation certificates, and there's a lot of them. I'll cover a few of them today. You've got a lot of your so bronze are 10 unique parks for your activators, and these are all unique parks for the activators. I think I've only covered bronze. I'm on my way to silver as an activator, but as a hunter, I've made over 200 contacts from a park entity, and a lot of those are park to parks. So hunters, it's a lot easier to get Because if you're chasing, it's a lot easier. You don't have to move from where you're at to get those rewards. Next page, please. And there's no lack of awards out there. As of right now, it goes all the way up to 7,500, either parks activated or parks hunted. They do also have the rapid deployment award, and what that is with the radar, what they want you to do is, like, if you're in a large park or a large large area, large entity, moving a certain distance away from where you were. So good one with this would be like your ham sticks. For a vehicle, it's you do I wanted to say, what was it? 5 contacts. Here you drive 6 kilometers away, you make another 5 contacts, and you can keep on doing that. Bicycles are obviously a little bit lower, foot is a little bit lower, and wheelchairs a little bit lower as well. Then there's also roving, and that's like I like to do, is I like to hit different entities within a day. So I started out at Lexington back on January 1st. I started in Lexington, traveled to Lake Thunderbird, traveled to Lake Arcadia, realized I was in the wrong area, moved all the way to Roman Nose and the state fishing park out there. And then I came home and I had food because I was hungry and cold. It was a very cold day. Next slide, please. You also get worked all states, worked all reference areas, and territory or state. That's kind of a unique award, and a lot of people like to go after that. So I think Oklahoma, I think we said had 138 entities in Oklahoma itself. So if you go out to all 138 entities, you'll get a specific award for doing that. If you hunt all 130, whatever it was in the state, then you'll get an award for that as well. A Kilo award is 1,000 unique contacts at one place. It doesn't have to be the same day. Lord have mercy on the voice if you do. Good on to you. They do also have Support Your Parks weekend, and that's quarterly. They select, I don't remember what the dates are, but it's on the page. And it's just where they encourage everyone to go out there and activate in their POTA parks. And then they have the late shift award, and that one goes from 0s to 1,200 UTC, making contacts there. And there's a whole list of awards on the site. If there's a lot more that I'm not covering, but it's just pretty certificates and something to put up on the wall. Personally, POTA has been awesome for me because I had made my first ever DX contact on my first ever park. It was from a gentleman in Spain, Echo Charlie 1 Delta, and I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it because I was logging and I asked him 3 times. It's like, what is your call sign? This doesn't have enough letters. This doesn't make any sense. What is your call sign? And he kept on repeating the same thing. So being an experience, I'm like, all right, wrote it down, copied it in the log, and then I came home, looked it up on QRZ, and realized I just made my first long distance contact there. But I made several now. Azura's Hungary, Spain, Italy, and all of this is on voice. And that's a great thing. You can do FT8, you can do CW, you can do voice. There's the options are limited. It's all depending on what you want to do yourself. Next slide. Let's go to the spotting page.
Which?
Spotting page.
Wrap it up.
Say again.
Time to wrap it up.
Okie dokie. So this is a live spotting page right here, and right now there are 51 on the page. Let's go ahead and change that to click this. See, just click that. And so this will give me a good idea when I am. What happened? Go back to it. Right there. Just stay right there. when I'm going out and trying to determine how it's looking, I look at this page right here. I've noticed if there's a lot more CW and FT8 than there is single sideband, then I know that's probably not a day for me to play because I don't do FT8 and I don't do CW. However, if you see that CW and FT8 is booming, then get on out there, get into a park. It's looking like a good day. This is a short list of all of the 34 that we have on voice right now. And you'll see with the no spot information, just update it again. So you'll see where they're from states, the country codes. This is what you'll use if you are a hunter or an activator to see where everything's sitting. So if you're a hunter, it's great. You'll push the pause button and then you can scroll down the line, tune them in, make contact, move to the next person. So that's how you can do, or you can just do it randomly. One of the big things, like I said, you may get out to some entities that do not have cell service. That's where scheduling and activation comes in handy. You'll go ahead and you'll click to schedule the activation. You'll say, hey, this is where I'm going to be at this day, at this park. This is my call sign. Look for me on these bands on this mode. You do that, and then you just hope someone reads that. And there's a lot of people that will. And if you get someone on there, go ahead, and if you don't have cell service, say, hey, just before you go, if you have access to the spotting page, please go ahead and give me a spot. And 9 times out of 9.5 times out of 10, they'll go ahead and they'll give you a spot, and it'll just blow up like that. So just want to give you a live look at the spotting page. And I think that's about it. We'll discuss today. Yep, we'll discuss today. Alrighty, so following the meeting today, we're going to do a SCARS activation. This is going to be the first one for the group. Our reference number is going to be Kilo 2792 at Lake Thunderbird State Park, East Sentinel area, which is east of the Twin Bridges. There's the address. If you're interested in coming out and playing, you can bring your own equipment and you can use ours. Just make sure that if you need help signing up for an account, please go ahead and do so. We'll be out there to help you with that. And it's just going to have fun. It's going to be hot, so make sure you're hydrating, and we'll have water. So with that, is there any questions? Yes, sir.
When you're on the spotting page, it's not online, some way to reformat in a simple list. I'm not been able to do that.
Okay. I will. That is a great question. Get with me after, and we'll try to figure that out.
What's the question?
There's a list to turn it.
No. Say it so they can hear.
Oh, the question was, is there a way to turn this into the spotting page into like a linear list? And I am not certain how. Oh, there it is.
Preferred table view.
Preferred table view. That's how. There we go. Click enough buttons. I like that. Something's going to happen if you click enough buttons. Okay. Any other questions? Yes, in the back.
Also, I'm Sam, by the way. I've been trying to get up the guts to do this on CW, and I'm scared of the pileup, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's
Yeah, but the thing is that the guys that I follow, I've done a lot of research. The cool thing about CW is you can schedule that you're going to be out there, and the reverse beacon network picks you up, so you can actually be spotted without cell service.
That is correct.
Which is really cool.
Yes. Yeah, I believe it's done automatically too by the program.
So,
Is
yeah.
the RBN will pick you up and then spot you automatically. I think the FT8 does not, just because they don't recognize the parks on their entity. But a lot of people will go ahead and spot using the normal method. Yes.
One just a little, I've never done an activation. I've done some hunting, but when you go out to activate, don't have internet or a lot of parks that there's no internet. How do you get spotted?
So going back to the question was, if you're out in a park and there's no internet to spot yourself, how do you get spotted? Two things. Remember scheduling and activation, number one. That's going to be your friend. That's going to say, hey, on this date, I'm going to be on this band. Now, obviously, I don't know where I'm going to be. And some people have gone as far as saying, I'll be in this area. Come and find me. The big thing, I ran into that when I was in Arkansas about a month ago, is I got into an area that didn't have internet. And I just kept on calling CQ until someone answered me. And luckily, it was another park in Colorado. I said, hey, do you have access to the spotting page? They said, yes. I go, hey, can you do me a favor and spot me? And like I said, about 30 minutes, you can tell when they click that button, it's about 30 seconds later, boom, I start getting hit everywhere. So sometimes you can't. Now, if you got an area that has, yeah, that's probably be the best way of doing it. And you can try different modes. If you can try 2 meters and see maybe there's someone in the local area that can pick you up, that can spot you. I've known some activators had to kind of walk them through, but at that time there was no pile up and no one coming from, so they had the time to walk them through how to spot, and they did it. Oh, cell service. If you don't have cell service, it's a no-go. Question in the back, blue shirt, please.
That was basically my question. I've had guys out in the park that didn't have that. They asked me to do it. That's okay.
Oh, absolutely. There's, like I said, this isn't a contest, so you can spot yourself. You can have other people spot you. So there's nothing against the rules saying that this is Parks and the Air is very limited on the rules, just to make it a lot more fun. So that's, yeah, absolutely. Use everything. Like you can, like I said, you can use a terrestrial repeater. Say, hey, is anyone on here? Can you go to this site and spot me? And that's perfectly fine. So, any other questions? Excellent. Well, thanks for your attention and your time. Y'all have a wonderful day.
All right.
It was very good.
Had a great program this morning.
Yep.
Parks on the Air. And